All right this morning. Thank you all for joining us today. We have a very special keynote speaker, well, guest speaker, today. And welcome to the Eastern Rural North Carolina Community Resource Network. If this is your first time here, I will go over the mission, and our objectives shortly. Before that, I'll introduce myself. My name is Rodolfo Martinez. I lead our advocacy and civic engagement initiatives here at the Association of Mexicans in North Carolina. I'm EXCAN, a nonprofit Latino-led and Latino-serving organization in Eastern North Carolina that's been serving our Latino community for a little bit over two and a half decades. So, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'll make sure to read them towards the end. And I'm super excited for who we have talking today. So, I'll go over the agenda. Uh, right now, I'm doing the about the Eastern Rural North Carolina Community Resource Network. I'll go over going over the agenda and its mission. Um, then we'll have Chris Suggs, Executive Director for Kinston Teens, a nonprofit located in Kinston, North Carolina, and all the awesome stuff they are doing. At 11:40-ish, we'll open up the floor for Q&A. If you have any questions, again, you can unmute yourself then, and or just type it in the chat box as the meeting goes on. And we'll wrap it up with community partner updates. And again, make sure before we continue to in the chat box comment your name, organization, and email that you are a yes, with the organization you are a part of. So, before beginning, our mission for the Eastern Rural North Carolina Community Resource Network is to convene local organizations, service providers, and community leaders to build a coordinated regional network that addresses systemic gaps in access by strengthening communication, resource sharing, and collaboration around healthcare, education, legal aid, housing, employment, and other essential services critical to the well-being of all communities across eastern rural North Carolina. And I do want to take a second to introduce our guest speaker for the day. If you can give me 1 second, I'm having some technical difficulties while I'm poor. So, a little bit about our guest speaker today. Chris J. Suggs is a homegrown community developer, organizer, and civic leader from Kinston, North Carolina. He is the founder and CEO of Kinston Teens, a youth-led nonprofit he launched as a high school student that has grown into a nationally recognized model for youth leadership development and community revitalization. Chris recently completed a 4-year term as a Kinston City Council member, where he focused on improving City Hall operations, strengthening core services, and guiding the city through recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, during which Kinston was named a 2025 All-American City. Chris was elected at the young age of 21 years old, in which he became the youngest elected official in North Carolina at the time, bringing a fresh yet system-oriented approach to municipal governance. Grounded in youth-led organizing, civic engagement, and place-based development, Chris now works to share lessons from his hometown with communities across the country and around the globe. He is a proud graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, go Rams, and a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Inc. And without further ado, I will pass it on over to our amazing guest speaker for the day. And thank you once again, Chris.
No problem. Thank you, Rodolfo, for having me. Thank you to the entire Mexican team. I'm very grateful to be here for this monthly meeting and to share a little bit about the work that Kinston Teens is doing here in Kinston, Eastern North Carolina. Uh, I'm going to try to share my screen. I did come up with a few slides to be able to visually show what we have going on. So 1 second, let me get that pulled up. Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. Are you guys able to see?
Perfectly.
Oh, it went off, I believe. Oops. All right, cool. All right. Well, good afternoon or well, good morning. It's still morning. Good morning, everyone. As introduced, I'm Chris Suggs. I'm the founder and executive director of Kinston Teens here in Eastern North Carolina. We've been around since 2014, and today I just want to take a little bit of time, share a little bit about who we are and what we do. Hopefully, inspire some similar efforts or learn about similar efforts that are happening across the region, across the state, as well as open up the door for possible collaborations and partnerships between our organizations and you all. So, a little bit of background. I'd like to start with how we came about as an organization, and that takes us back to 2014. 2014 was an interesting year for Kinston. At the time, I was just 14 years old, starting my freshman year of high school at Kinston High School. But there was a lot of negativity in the air in our community at the time. On a near daily basis, you were hearing or seeing on the news or learning about a young person either shooting someone or getting shot. These were high school classmates and peers of mine, friends and family members who were being impacted by this gun violence that was happening in Kinston on a near daily basis since 2014. That same year, my neighborhood of East Kinston was ranked as the number one most economically distressed census tract in the entire state of North Carolina. That was based on the significant economic disparities and poverty that existed in our community. And so there were these compounding issues going on, and many of these issues also problems in the school system and just the lack of morale. These issues were affecting young people in particular. My neighborhood of East Kinston has a lot of challenges, but also a lot of assets. And I think that's the story for many of our communities across North Carolina. We experience flooding from the Neuse River. We have an aging housing stock where most of the houses in our community are outdated, are not energy efficient, need a lot of repairs. We also have a lot of vacant and abandoned properties from population loss and environmental issues over the years, as well as environmental pollution there in the neighborhood, and a declining population, which also is a result of community distrust. At the same time, we do have some good assets, like the fact that we have young people in Kinston Teens and other organizations that are really leading and changing things. We have a really rich cultural history and arts history here in Kinston. If you're not familiar, Kinston is considered the basketball capital of the world because of the amount of NBA players who are from Kinston. We also have the legacy of being known as the birthplace of funk music because of the rich musical heritage we have here in Kinston. And so there are a lot of assets in addition to the challenges here in Kinston. Kinston is also experiencing some growth. I'm not sure if you all are from the area or have visited Kinston recently, but if you've driven through our downtown, you see some revitalization starting to happen. Businesses opening up on Heritage Street and Queen Street in downtown Kinston. We have some award-winning breweries and art galleries and restaurants happening and that are really causing a good scene here in Kinston and downtown. And that's both public and private investment. So entrepreneurs investing their own hard-earned money into our downtown, but also some public investment from the state government and city government as well into revitalizing our downtown community. But then you can come right next door into neighborhoods like East Kinston, where you're not seeing that same level of investment. You're seeing streets like this, Atkins Street, just a few blocks from where Kinston Teens is located, where you have, homes that are missing, lots that are overgrown, grass growing over the sidewalks and into the streets. You're not seeing that same level of public investment and care and intentionality going into the neighborhood. And that's how you end up with inequitable development. And so Kinston Teens operates at the intersection of both youth empowerment and community development. We're trying to empower young people to be leaders and change makers in our community, while at the same time, we're trying to address the very issues that are affecting our quality of life. And so we consider ourselves not only a youth empowerment organization, but a community development organization. And so when you have this reality of Kinston where you have violence and poverty, you have these unfavorable headlines in the news about our community. When you Google Kinston teens at one point, you saw negative stories about teenagers in Kinston involved in crimes or violence, and young people in our community in general were just seen in a negative light. And Kinston Teens has really worked to change that. because it's not the full story. We know that we have a community that is rich in heritage, rich in legacy, full of vibrant people who have great ideas and ambitions. And so that can't be the full story for our community. And I believe that's where Kinston Teens comes into play. And so at the age of 14, back in 2014, after going through that year, that very tumultuous year I described, where we were having shootings on a near daily basis, we were having gun violence and poverty issues being magnified in the news, and people really experiencing a lot of hardships. I decided to start Kinston Teens as a way to get young people together and involved and making a difference in our community. We knew that we wanted our focus to be on service, leadership, and civic engagement. And so from the start, our organization has been truly youth-led, created by me, a teenager at the time, 14 years old, and it's been powered by myself and my peers for the last 12 years now. And so, as you see, Kinston Teens does a little bit of everything. We knew that we wanted to jump right in and start addressing issues like quality of life and appearance in our community. So, cleaning up streets and beautifying properties, holding our elected officials accountable and hosting teen town halls. Really just trying to make sure that the young people in Kinston had a space that was for us and by us. It wasn't like the typical youth leadership programs where you're following a curriculum and the adults in the room are telling you what to do and how to lead. This is really by young people, us determining our own future and what we want the future of our community to look like. So we immediately jumped right in with community service projects, youth leadership programs, civic engagement initiatives like our teen town halls and our youth leadership summit, and then really, driving forth that neighborhood development in East Kinston. Our work has really made a difference and impact locally, but has also gained a lot of national attention. We've been able to really change the brand and perception of what it looks like and what it feels like to be a teenager from Kinston. We've been featured on CNN and ABC News 2020 and Teen Vogue magazine and daytime talk shows, even on Nickelodeon. So not only are we making waves and making an impact here in Kinston, but folks across the country and around the world even are being able to learn about the good things that are happening in this small community, how we're changing our perception, but also changing the quality of life for the people who live here. We realized that Kinston did have a negative perception, and so how could we as young people, build partnerships and make an impact in our community in a way that could change that? So if you Googled Kinston Teens many years ago, you would see an article saying like Kinston teen charged in connection with a double homicide in a local housing community. If you Google Kinston teens now or Kinston teenagers now, you see a news story about us buying an old school building to really drive forth community revitalization in our neighborhood. So, even the online presence and the online perception of our community is changing because of the work we're trying to do to revitalize our neighborhoods and empower young people. One project in particular I'm very proud of is the East Kinston Neighborhood Hub. This neighborhood hub started as this abandoned house that you see on the left side of your screen. It had been empty for many, many years right here in the heart of East Kinston. I grew up about a street away from this house, so I passed it on a regular basis and saw the bad shape that this house was in. One day I came across the fact that this house was listed on the county's tax foreclosure listing as a potential foreclosure and that you could bid on it and try to buy it. And so back in 2017, I submitted an $850 bid to buy this house. And after a few weeks, nobody outbidded me, and we ended up buying a whole house for $850. And so, over the course of time between 2018 and 2020, we renovated this house to being what you see on the right-hand side of your screen, the East Kinston Neighborhood Hub. Our young people, our volunteers, we got over there and really fixed this place up to be a hub, an outreach space for us right in the heart of our neighborhood where we can hang out, we can do homework, we can cook meals and serve our community right there from our neighborhood, in our neighborhood. So it's truly become a small community center that is, again, for young people, by young people, for our community, because we just care that much. This is just a image of East Kinston back in 1980. You see East Kinston is a very densely populated neighborhood, had rich communities and neighborhoods like East Lincoln City, you see at the bottom of the screen. just really thriving history, thriving businesses, everything in Kinston, if you look at 1980. Because of the impact of flooding over the years, East Kingston has changed a lot. So all this you see in the blue is where those neighborhoods have really been washed away over the course of time. So you see a lot of population loss, you see a lot of disinvestment, a lot of abandoned properties. Kinston is an environmentally challenged community because of the fact that we're not too far away from the coast. We also have the Neuse River that flows right at the south of our community. And so, in addition to the poverty, the violence, the other issues, we also have to deal with the fact that the climate is changing, exacerbating hurricanes, causing flooding in neighborhoods like ours. And so Kinston Teens also works to do disaster preparedness, response, and resilience work to help combat that. It's another picture of the East Kinston Neighborhood Hub. And this is what we're working towards. So, as a community, realizing that we very quickly outgrew the space at the existing neighborhood hub, that small house that we've renovated and we've been doing outreach at. A few years ago, we started exploring what a new and larger facility could look like for us. And so we got neighborhood residents together, young people, and we brought in some landscape and professional architects to come in and help us design what a new and larger facility, what a new and larger resilience hub could look like for our community. And a resilience hub is a facility that can help us, provide services and resources to our community on good, pretty blue sky days like we're having today here in Eastern North Carolina. But also when disaster strikes, when hurricanes hit, when pandemics hit, when extreme heat hits our community, those spaces can really seamlessly pivot into being able to offer additional services and resources. And so we designed this very beautiful facility over the last few years that we want to build and construct here in East Kinston. We're actively working towards it. We do have the space already secured for where we'll be able to construct this facility. So now we're in the grant seeking and fundraising space to make it a reality. We're also very proud that we've been able to design such a resilient and such a forward-thinking plan for this facility that it won a merit award from the North Carolina Association of Landscape Architects, as well as was a finalist for the 2025 World Landscape Architecture Awards. So that means, again, not only are we making a difference here in Kinston, we're thinking really big about where we want our community to go, but folks around the world are also seeing what we're doing here in Kinston and recognizing that. So we're really proud of it. These are some pictures on the left-hand side of the future of the facility and the plans that we have for it. We want it to be fully solar capable, so it have solar panels on the roof as well as a solar battery microgrid, so that if we get hit with a bad storm or hurricane, the facility can keep running and operating, even if the power grid goes down. We want to have a food forest and play area. We want to have a multi-purpose pavilion that can be used for arts, culture, farmers markets, community events. Those are all things incorporated into our plan for the East Kinston Neighborhood Hub. And on the right-hand side, you see some of the work we're already doing, as well as a picture of the school that we're currently renovating, as well as Lewis School that we purchased back in August of last year. Back to that concept of the resilience hub, that's how we already operate things at the East Kinston Neighborhood Hub and how we want to operate things moving forward in our new facility once that's constructed. We host programs and stuff now like our community dinners on a monthly basis, cooking classes, education programs like tutoring and our digital literacy court program, as well as training for entrepreneurs. But we very much do quickly pivot when disaster strikes or need arises in our community. We distribute meals. We help people navigate resources. We've hosted COVID-19 testing and vaccination clinics, provided shower space and phone charging space. We don't already have that temporary shelter capacity, but that's something that we're excited about in the plans for the new building. And so we really see ourselves as that type of resilience hub organization and entity, where on blue sky days, we're providing all these services and being a nice hangout space, stirred space, community center. But when disaster strikes, we can very much pivot and provide even more services and opportunities to our community. The last initiative I want to share about is the Kinston Teens Digital Literacy Corps program. This is a program that we've been operating for around 2 years now. We really kicked it off last year, really jump-started last year with support from the state of North Carolina's Digital Champion Grant. We recognize that many communities in eastern North Carolina and rural North Carolina don't have adequate access to broadband or internet access. And when they do, they sometimes don't have the skills or the knowledge to be able to safely and effectively navigate the internet. And we know this is constantly a ever-changing technology. The world is getting more and more reliant on the internet, and folks need to have access to the skills and the tools to navigate it safely. So some of what we provide are workshops and trainings that cover basic computer skills like typing, saving a file, navigating word processors, as well as internet safety. We also help people build resumes, search for jobs online, as well as do things like digital content creation, how to, manage the social media. We have a digital resource lab where folks here in Kinston can come and utilize our free Wi-Fi, computers, if they need to print something or need some help, some hands-on assistance. We can provide that in our digital resource lab. We also, through our digital literacy course program, offer peer educators where the folks who are coming to our trainings and our workshops and our digital resource lab, they're learning from people who look like them, who share their same experiences, and maybe were once even in their shoes. So really making sure that as we build up the knowledge and capacity around digital and technology skills, that we're sharing that knowledge with other people. And then we also do a lot of other community outreach and collaborations that promote both leadership development and service learning, which is our core mission, as well as increasing access to technology and digital tools. And so the big sell, the big driver of our digital literacy initiatives is the Corpus program, which is a six week paid training program where young people ages 16 to 24 participate in small cohorts of 12 to 15 students, and they get those technology skills, professional development, opportunities to volunteer in the community, and it's really focused on helping to bridge the digital divide, where we're training up these young people to know all the things about technology and leadership they need to know, they can go back out and share those knowledge and those skills with others in the community. And so I've shared a lot because we do a lot. We're very grateful to be in community with organizations like Mexicon and being able to, build partnerships across our region because we know we can't do this work alone. One organization can't solve all of North Carolina's problems, and I don't think any one organization wants to do that. But by working together, we absolutely can make a difference. And I'm excited about the partnerships that can potentially come from collaborations like this call. And so now I'll wrap things up, but did want to share our contact information. This is my email address, social media, and our websites. Please feel free to reach out or connect with me online. I'd love to learn more about the work you all are doing in communities across the state and how we can work together. And I'll open it up for questions or turn it back over to Rodolfo.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was awesome. More than what I could have envisioned. So thank you so much. I'm really, it was honestly great to learn more myself about what Kinston Teen does. I think I haven't seen but so much of it, and I have to visit Kinston now, of course. But again, thank you so much. We will move it on to any questions. I do see we have Ron Garcia from You Can Vote. Ron, if you're good to go.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That was great to hear. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was 14 years old, so my hats off to you. I mean, it's just so much that you've accomplished, even being a city council member, as I saw on your LinkedIn, and working for Democracy NC. So I work with You Can Vote. You probably know of us through your time at Democracy NC. So I was just curious, what voter engagement stuff you've done with youth in general, and yeah, just anything you can elaborate on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, and thank you for your kind words and the question. So Kinston Teens does do a lot around civic engagement and voter engagement. We're again a very youth-driven and youth-focused organization. So our membership is as young as 12 years old. So many of our volunteers and youth aren't even able to register and vote themselves. But we make sure that they're still civically engaged and they're encouraging their friends, family, and community members to vote. So we do host voter registration initiatives all year long. We don't typically do too much around the primary because because of the partisanship of it. But by the second week of March, so this past March, we were already head first back knocking on doors in our community, talking to people about the important midterm elections we have going on this year. We do host events again for National Voter Registration Day. We do voter registration drives in all of our high schools here in the community. We also host parties at the polls and get out the vote initiatives. So you see us at multiple polling places throughout Kinston, providing that encouragement for people to come out and vote, providing food and music and really encouraging people to cast their ballots and just making sure that the democratic process is a fun and engaging process. But then we do organizing all year long. So, there are organizations, we all are familiar with some organizations that just do electoral work around election season. But we see election season as a 365-day thing. So even when we're organizing around community development projects, food, housing, whatever, we're connecting it back to the ballot box, making sure that people know that our local, our state, national officials all somehow impact our lives on a daily basis, and that every year is an election year. So even though this year is getting a lot of attention because of the courts and the Senate races and stuff, next year we're going to be electing mayors and city council members across North Carolina. So every year is an election year, and that's something we push as well.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Chris, for that answer. Do we have any further questions for Chris while we have him on the call today?
I do see a question from Sarah in the chat about the funding, the grants for the hub. And so glad to answer that. So we have, or Kids and Teens has pretty much been sustained over the years by a combination of fundraising and grant support. So we've done the traditional fundraising like car washes and dinner sales and t-shirt sales to really fund our programs and our efforts. But we've also in the last few years been able to build some partnerships with some state and national funders to do like our civic engagement work, voter registration work, things like that, and some of our food programming as well. The hub, we were really optimistic to be able to secure what was called the Community Change Grant from the EPA. It was this big multi-billion-dollar grant pool that the Biden-Harris administration had in place. We had everything lined up to be able to, qualify for and receive one of those awards to help us construct the new hub. And in January 2025, the current administration did terminate that grant and completely halt that grant program. So we haven't been discouraged though. That was a huge blow to our progress that we built with that plan in the hub. But we're still actively trying to pursue new funding partnerships, potentially even starting some of the site prep work this year, if we are able to secure some funding. So it's a $16 million project to fully construct that facility that we're trying to build. And so we're actively working towards raising those $16 million. And so the second part of your question about tips for other areas, partnerships is really what I push. I think any funder who's going to fund something really big, like a $16 billion project, even if they're only funding 500,000 or $2 million of that bigger amount, they want to see, do you have partnerships with your local school system or any technical assistance organizations, especially if you're a real grassroots organization. Like I think many of us on the call probably are smaller grassroots organizations. So can you partner with someone who has the experience managing federal grants or having the design expertise to really build a facility like that? And so that's something that we really pride ourselves in, are some of the partnerships we've been able to build.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you, Chris. I do. Oh, you have a line of people of questions now. Okay, we'll get started with who ends you.
Good morning, muy buenos días. Chris, congratulations on everything you had done so far in such a young age. We do need more people like you to continue to build a different landscape in our rural North Carolina communities. But the one thing is that I think I do admire and respect you, um, you strong efforts that you have created, but also the strength framework that you have from your family. I've been knowing your mom for many years. But I think one of the things that it would be great to hear from you, a recommendation to our community-based organizations that trying to do similar work in rural North Carolina. It will be the first thing. And second is to our young people this day and time, we live in a critical situations, but people like you're an example that can, if you want it, you can make it happen and you can create a better collaborative efforts and bring other stakeholders into the table to really build a different landscape that we used to see it in rural North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Vincia. And I appreciate you and your friendship and partnership over the years. I'm able to keep going. And what really motivates me is having leaders like you who I can look to for advice and guidance and really, made that blueprint for us. And so, my recommendation for, other organizations, if you're trying to get started, really trying to sustain something, Mr. Vincia shared this, my mom, my family have been really deeply a part of the work of Kinston Teens. Like I could not have done this work without having my strong family and friends really behind this work. And that's something I recommend to anyone getting started is, everyone doesn't have really strong family relationships and every family may not have the ability to make some of the sacrifices that my family made for Kinston Teens. Like my mom actually quit her job to do full-time community organizing with Kinston Teens and the work we were doing. So that was a huge risk and a huge sacrifice that we made. But what I will say is that if you're trying to start something, whether it's a one-off community cleanup event or trying to, open a clothing closet to give away clothes in your community, you do need to be able to establish that trust and that buy-in with the people closest to you. Whatever it is that they can give, whether that's, a day of their time or an hour of their time, or if they can give a few $100s to help support the program, or if they can just, share the word on social media. I think funders, other folks in your community, people online, they look to see if you're able to build trust with the people closest to you, the people directly impacted by your work, the people who are under your influence in your immediate circle. And then that signals to other folks that they can also trust you because the people in your community already do. And so really establish yourself as a trusted presence in your neighborhood, in your family, in your social circles. And I think that is what's really helped sustain Kinston Teens over the years because my family trusts me. My neighbors here in East Kinston trust me. The young people in Kinston, they trust me. They trust our organization. And again, that's because they're so deeply embedded in it. Like this is truly an organization where the people in our neighborhood, the young people we serve, they're on our board of directors. They're the staff who are working in our programs. Like we pride ourselves too in building up people from starting as a volunteer to eventually becoming an intern or actual staff person with the organization. And so that's another way to really build trust and sustain your work. Um, the other, kind of, I think that might answer both the questions is, both the trust, that's how you build relationships with people in the community. That's how you build relationships with donors and funders. And the other recommendation I would do is to market yourselves. Like this technologically, advanced age we live in, you've got to be able to spread the word online. You've got to have a social media presence or a website. You want something that people can really quickly look to and understand what your organization is about. And I think that's something that we try to do with Kinston Teens is that if you look at our Instagram page or our Facebook or our website, you can get an immediate impression like, oh, okay, that's what they're about. That's what they're doing. And then when I talked to them, they learned that we're doing even more. Like, everything can't get shared in a 30-second video on your Instagram or, with a homepage on your website. But if you can draw them in immediately, that's how you build those relationships, how you build that support. And you want people to be able to find you online. So marketing yourself as an organization is honestly just as important as if you were running a for-profit business or something.
Thank you, Juancio. Thank you, Chris. Francisco with DHHS.
Gracias and good afternoon, everybody. And Chris, thank you for all your effort. I think the youth is a perfect way to mold the world. And I have two questions. The first question is well known that at this age, they can be very related with gangs, and we have a big issue in North Carolina regarding gangs. Have you, or what is the strategy that you are following with your local authorities to try to connect this topic with the youth groups that you have? And the second question is about the support of mental tools that you may know around the state. Because obviously, I would like to connect a little bit deeply. I just put my information in the chat to figure out how we can connect to visualize those mental health. But yes, those are my two questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, I'll start with the first question. Yeah, gang violence and the presence of gangs is definitely an issue in a lot of our communities in North Carolina, and Kinston is no different. I talked a little bit about the poverty and the violence that we've had here in Kinston, and from my friends and family members and peers who I know have been involved in that. It's two things I think that really lead to young people, unfortunately, getting engaged in gangs, and that's they're looking for a sense of belonging. They want to have a group, a social circle. They want someone to something. They want something to feel like they're a part of. And they're also looking for opportunity. And so the way Kids and Teens combats that, we don't call ourselves a violence prevention or gang prevention organization, but we do pride ourselves in the fact that we build a sense of belonging for the young people who are part of our organization and part of our community. So letting them lead and design and plan our service projects, giving them a safe and a brave space to share their opinions and their ideas at our events and our programs. And then by providing them opportunities, by, giving them that volunteer experience, those leadership opportunities, letting them know that, hey, you're a volunteer now, but we want you to be a board member. At 18 years old, you're on a board or you're interning with our organization, or we're giving you a stipend or paying you to actually go knock on doors during election season or to, help us plan and build a community garden. Those are ways that we're building that sense of belonging and providing those opportunities. Because if we don't do that, if organizations like ours on this call who care about the future of our communities, who care about the young people and their well-being, if we don't provide them with a space to have that belonging, a space to experience good, positive opportunities, they are going to find it elsewhere in gangs or in other, more problematic things. And so that's the way we've been able to, impact the lives of young people. That's the way we've been able to really sustain young people being involved. Is through that sense of belonging, and we have a long ways to go still. I think making that happen across the state. And I'll transition a little bit into the second question you asked. I think the COVID-19 pandemic really isolated a lot of young people. We weren't out and about as much. We were, on our screens, on having classes over Zoom. It caused a lot of social isolation, and so when you get out of the pandemic, things open back up. I think people did really start trying to find ways to get, ways to build relationships, ways to build community, and oftentimes ended up back again in those gangs and those negative spaces. And so one way that we're trying to combat both the pressures that young people are experiencing with mental health is through, again, belonging. So providing those safe spaces for young people to come and just hang out and be themselves. The East Kinston Neighborhood Hub campus that we have, we're really trying to make it be a real third space for young people. So if they're not at home, if they're not at school, the third space they're at is hopefully with us, hanging out, being involved in something, doing something, or just having that space where they can feel comfortable. And we focus a lot on mental well-being, particularly in the last few months. So the end of last year, we hired a youth engagement manager who has background as a social worker and a teacher. And so we're really trying to embed more of that both trauma informed and social work approach to how we engage young people too, because there's so many pressures going on in the world. We want to make sure that their mental health needs are being taken care of. And so definitely want to connect with you and any other partners who are focused on that and interested in that as well.
Thank you, Francisco, and thank you, Chris, for that. I know we are wrapping up soon, so are there any final questions for Chris while we have him here? I do know he had the chance to speak at the Rural Summit last week, so if anybody was there, any shout outs?
Yeah. And Rodolfo, I do see a question in the chat from Brenda about what are some of the things we've done to work with city council, county commissioners, and law enforcement to get them involved. And so that's a whole other presentation about that I could possibly give. Our relationship has mostly been very productive with local government, county, officials, law enforcement over the years, but it's definitely waxed and waned over time depending on the season. When we first got started as an organization, I think a lot of political leaders, elected officials saw us as a good group of young people to have a photo op with. Oh, they're out cleaning up streets and volunteering at the homeless shelter. Let's go take a picture with them. I think that was their initial impression of Kinston Teens. But we very quickly let them know that that's not who we are. And we, brought them to the table and held them accountable. We've hosted town hall events where we will literally put the mayor, city council, the district attorney in the hot seat and say, these are questions we have for you about what are you doing to protect young people, to make our lives better, our schools better. And so we do have those type of relationships where they know that we're a group of young people, a community organization that will hold them accountable. But we've also been able to do some really great partnerships too with some of our local officials and even state officials. We've had a great partnership with the state of North Carolina when it comes to like public health needs. So we hosted a lot of testing and vaccination events for the COVID-19 pandemic here in Kinston, in partnership with the state. We've also been able to partner with the city government on planning the future of some of our parks. So making sure that when the city is going to get some money to redesign or renovate a park, that they are actually listening to the young people and the community members who are going to go to those parks and those recreation facilities. So we've had some great partnerships like that. And we've really pushed them to get outside City Hall and talk to people. We make sure that whenever we have something going on in our organization, that we're knocking on doors and talking with community members where they are. And so we'll call up our city public services department or police department or even the firefighters and say, hey, we're going to be out in this neighborhood today, walking and talking to people about our next community event or about the election. You guys should come out too and talk with them about some of the things that City Hall has going on, what programs people can participate in, or what issues are going on in the community that you guys need to hear from community residents from. So those are some of the ways we've partnered with them over the time. I was a city councilman for a little over 4 years, so there was that experience of having to have some separation too for a time where we're leading things through Kinston Teens on the community side and want to make sure there's no real conflict of interest or anything through the elected official side of me being in that role. But I'm very glad that I decided not to run for reelection and just focus full time on community organizing because believe it or not, people think that our elected officials have a lot of power and they do in a lot of ways. But I believe there's so much power and potential in those of us who are just average, ordinary citizens working together to get things done. And we have to put more emphasis on working together.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Alrighty. And any final questions? Going once,
I have
twice.
one question. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Chris. Congratulations. It's nice to see all the work. I was raised in Kinston, so I have seen Kinston and it's, growing, and I'm amazed. Um, Along with the question that Francisco asked, have you seen like a change or like a positive change on the violence and stuff going on in the high schools? And also like dropout rates. I know, sometimes a lot of students drop out either because of relation or like teen pregnancy and things like that. Have you seen a change in that? And then also if like teens would like to go to the hubs and things like that, but they don't have transportation, do you provide transportation for those students to be able to go to these hubs?
Yeah. So I'll start with the impact on like the violence and dropouts. So Kinston has seen a significant decrease in violent crime over the years since Kinston Teens has been in existence. It has gone up and down sometimes over the years. We did see some increases around the start of the COVID-19 pandemic where people had a lot more idle time on their hands. And so, violence unfortunately went back up. But violent crime is currently down in Kinston, which is a good thing. And we can't take all the credit for that. I think it's a lot of partnerships between us and other organizations, our law enforcement, just how people are starting to meet the needs of our community. High school dropout rates. I haven't gotten the most recent numbers. There was a bit of a lag after COVID-19, and I don't know if that's I can't explain what the reason for the lag with the school system sharing some of the dropout rates after the pandemic and things open back up. But what we are seeing is there's been an increase in focus on trying to re-engage those students. So, for example, our digital literacy corps program that Kinston Teens has, we particularly focus on people in that 16 to 24 age range that's considered opportunity youth. So those are youth who have either already become disconnected from school, they've dropped out, they are not in a community college or a four-year university, they're kind of in that in-between phase. We do really focus on trying to connect with those youth who've been disconnected or who have dropped out. And so I do think as we promote more programs like that, we will have much more success with re-engaging those dropout youth and youth who have, been cut off from other opportunities. The last question was about transportation. We do provide some transportation, so we have an organization van, and we've also had a bus that would help with transportation. We do focus a lot of our stuff right here in the heart of the neighborhood, and so we've seen that many of our members and volunteers will just literally walk to the hub, and so we like how conveniently located we are in the neighborhood and in downtown. When someone lets us know that they don't have transportation access, we do try to, eliminate any barriers. So whether it's transportation, childcare, food, getting off work. We've had students, because of our partnership with the school system, the school buses actually drop some students off at our facility for programs too, so they can like put it on their route. So that's been helpful too, because of those partnerships.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Chris. Alrighty. It looks like we have no more questions. I did want to take the time um, to see if anybody had any updates. I'll start. I'll go first, and then I'll bring it back and share it with the others. Sorry. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Let me stop recording.